Some fast facts. Population's about 32 million. Lima, the capital, has about 10 million people. Pretty big city. The official languages are Spanish, Quechua, and Aymara. And Quechua is the language that the Incas spoke, so there's still a lot of those speakers around. Aymara is one of the many kingdoms that the Incas conquered, but they're a southern kingdom in Peru, Bolivia. And so there's a lot of Aymara speakers, and many other languages are spoken in Peru, but these are the official languages. Number of Quechua speakers, about 8 million, so it's quite a few. Again, that's the language that the Incas spoke, and they spread their language across the Andes and across their empire. They're actually, before COVID hit, Peru has done pretty well in the last couple decades. They've come from poverty to being ranked as upper middle income. So economically, they've had a resurgence in the last couple decades. The largest industries are fishing, mining, and the third largest one is tourism, and that's because it's such a magnet for such a great place to visit. So that's a really big industry there. Major trading partners: the United States, China, Brazil, the European Union, and Chile. And among the many superlatives in Peru in the Western Andes are the enormous amount of biodiversity. And that's resulted into, give or take, 1,000 or so, 4,000 varieties of potatoes. Potatoes were originally created, or I should say, agriculturists created various varieties of potatoes up in the Andes. And if you think about going to a normal grocery store, you might find 1 or 2 or 3 varieties. Well, in Peru, they have like 4,000. So that's where they were actually created down the Andes. Same thing with corn. Corn actually was domesticated in southern Mexico, but over thousands of years it spread throughout the Americas, including South America. And in Peru, there's 55 different varieties of corn. Again, you think of the corn that we eat at a grocery store as like one variety. There's this huge biodiversity down there. Huge biodiversity in fish species. Peru is number 1 in the world in number of fish species, and that's the freshwater fish species. More than 2,000, because they have the upper Amazon that comes in and all kinds of lakes and whatnot. This is a paiche fish, one of the largest freshwater fish in the world, and it grows up to 10 feet, over 200 pounds. Enormous Amazonian fish. Depending on who you speak to, if you speak to a Colombian or a Peruvian, Peru's either number 1 or number 2 in bird species, but both Colombia and Peru vie for that record. Almost 2,000 bird species, which again just shows the huge biodiversity. This is cock of the rock. This particular bird lives in the cloud forest of Peru. Number 3 in amphibians, 323 species of amphibians, huge biodiversity there. Number 3 in mammals, 460 different species of mammals, and they're still discovering mammals all the time, especially in the Amazon, new mammal species. All archaeologists would say that Peru is an archaeological wonderland, and I've talked to various archaeologists, and probably like to this day, maybe 1% of Peru has been examined archaeologically. It's just, it's an open air museum, and they're making discoveries every day, and they've only scratched the surface of what's under the sands, many times really well preserved. Weaving is an ancient art in South America. In fact, they said that it wasn't until the late 1800s that European textiles surpassed the fineness of textiles from Peru 2,000 years ago. They're like one of the masters in the world at textiles. They still are. This would have been a tunic from a noble back in the day, with all kinds of symbols that nobody knows what they mean anymore, but it's really beautiful. And if you had been a person walking in the street, you would have understood what all those symbols meant and what the rank was and where they were from in the empire and that kind of thing.